All right, well, welcome once again, men and brethren. This is Aflame and Whole, and we'll be discussing biblical stewardship. We'll try to round up our discussion on biblical stewardship today. If this is the very first episode you are having to come in contact with, we would encourage you to go to the YouTube channel and watch subsequent previous videos to see and drop your comments. Of course, we'll also plead with you to like and subscribe to this channel and share widely, as we intend to bring up very interesting topics and look at them from a biblical point of view. Today, we'll be rounding up, like I said, and the objective all the while has been to enable participants apply fundraising principles in their ministry. Today, we have Pastor Emmanuel Joel, who coordinates a youth ministry, Global Ministry, based in Makurdi, Benue State. He's married with 3 children. He also has a YouTube channel. I'll drop the link in the description. You could also go there to subscribe and see what the Lord is doing through his family. Another discussant here is Brother Victor Para. He's a kingdom advocate committed to helping humanity come into the fullness of purpose. He's also an active member of the Destiny Army International, which is an evangelistic outreach group with purpose of reaching out to communities within and around Ogun State, and as the Lord will give directive. Today we'll be rounding up with how we can develop our local resource base in our respective locations. And why are we spending so much time about money? Is because there is money in the Bible. We said this in the very first episode, that 1 out of every 10 verses in the gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, was centered around, had something to do around money. 1 out of every 10. And as Christians, if we are asked the question about faith, we are very certain what we'll be very clear that, okay, this is what God wants us to have about faith. And the same goes with prayer. In fact, the fact here is that there are less than 5,000 verses on faith, and there are about 5,000 verses on prayer in the Bible. However, there are about 2,000 verses on money in this same Bible, yet we tend to want to shy away from it, and we feel when we discuss money, we are not spiritual. I'm beginning to wonder what our definition of spirituality is all about. If the Bible, except for I say the Bible is not a spiritual book, after mentioning money about 2,000 times. And Jesus Christ himself gave 38 parables in the Gospels. 16 out of the 38 had something to do with money. So obviously, money is a very, very important topic, and one that Christians should engage in, discuss vigorously and in detail, get a proper understanding of, and should try to live by whatever principles the Bible has taught around money. The last time we discussed why local churches shouldn't, or local ministries should try to raise donors from within and not expect outside donations all of the time, especially when we expect donations from Western countries or from some other bigger ministries, because they could becloud our judgment and try to force us into, narrow down our thinking. And that way we don't also develop the resources, the human personnel within us, and the people who have influence over, we don't develop them enough to grow financially. Today we'll be rounding up that as we discuss developing indigenous resource base. One key passage we have been looking at is 2 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 5. We read this the last time, where we saw that there were some Christians, and the Bible mentioned that they were seriously poor. And in their poverty, They pleaded earnestly for the privilege of sharing in the service to the saints. One translation actually stated it clearly that service to the saints there was given to other poor people. They were very, very poor, and they were willing to give. Now, why did this happen? Verse 5 stated that point. And he said, and not only did they do as was expected, they gave themselves first to the Lord and then to us, because it was the will of God. Because it was the will of God. But the first thing is that they gave themselves to the Lord. When you give yourself to the Lord and you understand that He is actually our Lord, capital L, over us, and that the resources we have are His and has been given to us to use as He would, then it becomes, you can see directly why they'll be willing to give out of the little they have and not want to stash for themselves. So for number one, in developing indigenous resource base, is that we must teach our people to be committed to the Lord. Everybody will have influence over. We must get to a point where we let them see that the commitment to the Lord, discipleship, and following the Lord is number one priority of every living being. Of course, we have some other points here. Bro Victor, would you want to pick up developing indigenous resource base from the angle of paradigm shift?
All right. You see, when we talk about money, just like you rightly mentioned earlier, we have this problem with believers seeing money as evil. One scripture that often comes to mind is the love of money is the root of all evil. And we fail to realize what the scripture was actually trying to pass across. They said the love of money, not that money is the root of all evil. Because if we go back to Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 18, I believe, it says, you shall love the Lord your God, because you shall remember the Lord your God, because it is He that gives you what? Power to create wealth. So God cannot be giving you power to do something that is evil.
True.
So the power to create wealth really comes from God. And if we go back, we look at Abraham. Abraham was very, very prosperous. In fact, the Bible says that his servant was saying, he said, the Lord has blessed my master Abraham richly. He said he has become very rich in silver, in gold, in cattle, and all sorts. You have Isaac. The Bible says that Isaac sowed in that land. The same year, God blessed him. He reaped 100. And you look at Jacob, and God said, I am the God of who? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Another scripture, First Timothy, I think chapter 6, Paul was writing to them, he said, command those who are rich in this world not to trust in certain riches, but to put their trust in God, who gives us all things richly to enjoy. All right, so it is, all these things come from God. And we must come to the point where, as leaders, we must help our people to understand these things. That wealth, that being rich, having things is not wrong. Because as long as we continue to see it as a sin, to be wealthy, you cannot attract what you hate or what you see as a sin.
Sure.
We'll continue to dispel material prosperity from ourselves until we come to see the fact that God actually wants it for the church. He said, through prosperity will the gospel be noised abroad. And so the only way that we'll actually be able to do the work of the gospel effectively is that we must attain a certain level of prosperity. And it is our duty as people of influence, our duty as even believers, to help other people to come to this understanding, to create this paradigm shift in the mentality of people, to see that it's very important for us to know that God wants us to prosper materially, God wants us to prosper financially, and that being poor is not a hallmark of spirituality, it's not a measure of spirituality by any means. In fact, Paul said to people, he said that we command everyone that they should work with their own hands so that they have something to give. So you work with, in fact, what Paul was saying is you should be prosperous enough to have something to give out to people. So I think this is what we really have to come to understand.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much. Glory, ma'am. Would you want to
Yes.
discuss developing indigenous resource base from the angle of training on biblical stewardship? What, as people of influence, what should we do with the training on biblical stewardship?
Hello?
Hello, you can go ahead.
Okay. All right. Training on biblical stewardship. I believe strongly that um, what you see in a particular congregation is a picture of how much you can't give what you don't have. It's what your actions, your reactions is based on what you know. So one of the key foundational things that must be in place. If this if we must develop our indigenous resource base is training on biblical stewardship. We must deliberately give attention to training to bring biblical perspective, biblical light, just like we just said. Particularly for this our discussion, training on biblical stewardship. We must understand that that's the focus of all our discussions so far, that God has entrusted us resources. In fact, before God made man, all that we have discussed, that God has put so much on the earth, so much gold, so much silver, there's so much that man has not even discovered. So much, it's for the use of man, it's for the good of man. And God has put it in our hands for his glory, for the purpose of the kingdom. That's what we've been discussing. So we must be correctly trained on the fact that God is entrusting wealth into our hands for the kingdom building. My understanding of why Israel, when they were living in Egypt, God gave them favor before Pharaoh, before the Egyptians, and they went out with so much gold, so much wealth, so much. They left slavery with so much wealth, with so much possession. And part of my understanding is that God is entrusting that into their hands because there's going to be a building of a temple that will need gold and silver. So we must understand that we are stewards. When God gives us money, but the focus here is to train brethren to have this understanding that when God gives you an appointment, when you become a governor, when you have resources, when you have businesses that are flourishing and money is coming to your hands, God is entrusting it into your hands, and you must not spend it the way you want to spend it. No, you ask the owner, why are you giving me these resources? What is it meant for? It's meant for the kingdom. There's a purpose for which God is giving us. So we must be trained. Then alongside with that also, model generosity. So we must show as people of influence, we must practice what we teach. We must live out what we say. And even through the scriptures, David that wanted to build the temple so much, but God said he couldn't build the temple. He gave out resources he kept in store. He was mentioning what and what he gave for the. So he led an example. No wonder his son Solomon went extra mile because he saw the father, he saw the heart, how he was modeling generosity. He was living it out. He was exemplifying it. So when we are preaching, we should in church as leaders, when we are trying to raise money, let's put out the first. Let's drop our own money first, not just saying give, and we are not giving. So and it's what people see that they do. So we must model generosity. It's biblical all through scriptures. All the people that are talking about giving, Paul himself that talked about giving that we read about, he was a giver himself.
It was. It was. Oh, your network just froze there. We'll proceed. Um, okay, so on developing indigenous resource base, Bro Victor, can you pick up the next point? Challenge them to give and sow.
Okay. One thing I learned from Paul, especially when you go through scriptures, is that he was never, what I say, ashamed or afraid to challenge the people to give to the work of the Lord. I think the combination of that will be seen in 2 Corinthians chapter 8 and 9, where there was an extensive discussion on the subject of giving. You see, especially now with everything that is going on with the church, especially maybe the church in Nigeria, I don't know, maybe not so much outside, but with the church in Nigeria, where pastors are generally being accused of being swindlers or trying to impoverish the members and or what have you, is becoming more difficult for pastors, for leaders of congregations, for people to ask people to give to the work of the Lord. But we must not run away from it. There's something that Paul said in Philippians chapter 4. He said that it's not because I seek something from you, but that I am seeking what to be credited to your accounts. In Philippians chapter 4, I think read from 19 to about 2021. Said, because I seek what to be credited to your accounts. If we have this understanding that every time we give, one, we are honoring the Lord.
Yeah.
Then we can actually challenge people to honor the Lord. In fact, that's the way scripture says, honor the Lord with your substance. So if we really teach people to honor the Lord with their substance, we believe that they are honoring the Lord with their substance, then why should we not encourage them to honor the Lord? It's something we have to, really see from that light. Two, we should encourage people to give because it's our work. It's easy for us to say we are joint heirs with Christ, we are members of God's household, we are ambassadors of Christ. If indeed all these words are true, then this work that we are doing is our work. I don't believe that we'll have projects of our own and we'll need someone to come and encourage us. Maybe let's say you're building a house or you want to buy a car. Someone will now come, you now need someone to come to encourage you to give to the work. No, you wouldn't. You will naturally give to the work because it's your work. So that's the same way we must challenge people. We must challenge people to give. We must challenge people to sow seeds, financial seeds, material seeds at all points in time.
All right, thanks, brother. Then we must learn to carry people along. There are times that we tend to want to select some persons amongst our folks and overburden them with, let me not use the word overburden them, just hang the financial burden of a particular ministry or project on their shoulder with the excuse that other people don't have to give. I think we cleared that out the last discussion we had, and of course from the passage we read today in 2 Corinthians, that even though they were poor, they were willing to give. That we should be willing to able to carry people along. Okay, we're trying to reach out to the people in this village. We're trying to print tracts. People should be carried along. That is one way we can develop indigenous resource base. Then the leadership has to be transparent and honest. The leadership has to be transparent and honest. Personally, I believe that no matter how small the group is, maybe a group of 20 or 10 or 5, so long there is money involved, the leadership of that group should set out a day, perhaps just once in a year, where certain persons get a financial breakdown of the past year or the past period, as the case may be. I remember growing up in the city of Kaduna, and the church I attended usually will have this meeting like once a year. They have maybe not a register, but there is this unsaid rule that if you are baptized and you partake in the Holy Communion, then you are actually a member of the church, right? And every other person who isn't baptized is just fellowshipping with the church. So those who are baptized will have a particular Sunday after the church where the church secretary, church treasurer, everybody sits down and they realize, okay, the month of January we got so. The month of February, this was what came in. We spent this amount to cater for widows. We did this. And, there is transparency. And if there are any naughty areas or gray areas you don't really understand, you could ask questions. If there are projects that need to be embarked upon, and we need to create a special wallet, a special fundraising scheme to see out that particular project, which points to the second point here: carry people along. That is brought up around that time, right? And things are done. If we feel the leadership was too loose in spending certain funds, and the funny thing, everybody gets the opportunity to speak. Age is not an issue here, right? Because wisdom, of course, is not tied to age alone. Everybody gets the opportunity. Sometimes it could be a heated argument, but you just see that the two factions are actually speaking up at the top of their voices, perhaps for the good of the general body. Of course, there might be some selfish reasons here and there, but the point is that transparency and honesty. Everybody leaves that place feeling like the leadership was transparent and honest. So if they're asking you for money the next day, you don't feel like, if I give my money, somebody's going to embezzle it, right? You see, leadership has to be transparent and honest. And that is one way we can develop indigenous resource base. So for you listening to us, irrespective of what time and when you get to listen to this, put in the chat box what fundraising strategies can be put in place to generate the needed finance for evangelism in your respective locations. What fundraising strategies can be put in place to generate the needed finance for evangelism in our respective locations. So let's have that in the chat box, please. Now we will be discussing why people give to ministry. Why do people actually give to ministry? Bro Victor, would you want to?
All right. For the first reason is for a shared cause. People often will give when there's an alignment of certain things they hold dear with things you hold dear. So if, for instance, for one reason or the other, I'm given to helping children, and you happen to be a ministry that is going maybe to an orphanage, or you are going to go and a ministry to kids under the bridge, street kids, and all those things, I'll feel more motivated. I'll be more driven to give to such causes. So people give to causes, they give to a shared cause. So when you are reaching out to people, you should endeavor to reach out to people who share the same cause with you. So for instance, I'm part of a youth body that reaches out to the unsaved, the unreached in the inner cities and villages around Ogun State, especially the youth and discipling the youth among us. When you're going to raise funds, you should look for people who share that cause. You should look for people who are also giving to things that affect the youth. Those are the people that will feel this thing to give to the work. Then you also have a ministry influence. For instance, if a ministry has impacted me, I have several of them that from time to time, you've been so richly blessed by their ministry, and you just see they're having a project they are carrying out. Yeah, you just feel led to give, or just want to encourage the ministry. You want to encourage them to do more. Why? Because they've been a blessing to you in time past. And it's important at this point to state that you should usually not demand giving from people who you don't influence. If we are not, Paul said that if we have ministered to you if we have ministered the spiritual to you, is it a difficult thing that will reap material? So people reap material. You're supposed to reap materially from people you minister spiritually to or otherwise to. Right? So you should look for, so people give when the ministry has had influence, a bit of influence in their lives. And then last one I would like to talk about is the relationship with the ministry. Okay, I happen to have left on campus. I was part of a Winners Campus Fellowship. So from time to time, they might be having projects they are doing or one issue coming up. Of course, they can reach out and say, we're having so and so. The giving will be based on what? Just the
The
relationship I have
relationship.
with them. Yeah, the relationship we have. There are groups, a youth group and this thing is not always um, just in terms of finances per se. Sometimes it's in terms of even resources, like human resource. There are times when people might want to go and, for instance, if you want to go and hire a speaker to come and speak at an event, instead of them doing that, they can look at who are the people we have relationships with that we can actually bring for this thing that would help us to pass across the same message, but without
Mm-hmm.
spending, the funds we have on ground. So people give to ministries. They are coming to your ministry or they are giving to your ministry will also be based on the relationship we have with the ministry. So
Mm.
when people give, they give for a shared cause. They give because of the influence your ministry has had on them, because of the relationship they share with your ministry. And this means that when you're also trying to raise funds, you should have these things um, at the front of your mind. Um, Not, I don't like saying at the back of your mind. You should have these things at the front of your mind when you are planning for fundraising activities and or what have you. I believe you take the next set of points we have on that.
Yeah, relationship. Thank you so much. You were very direct with the shared cause, ministry influence. Of course, we'll see them again in the subsequent slides. Um, People give. Remember, for now we're discussing why people give to ministry. People give when there's an urgent need. There are some persons that are basically docile, and there's an urgent need. They will give. So if there's an urgent need, make it public. When you go around churches that are not that big, smaller groups, you see people complain that I was sick, I was ill, nobody came visiting. And a common question that pastors would usually ask is, did you call anybody to tell them you were ill? Well, I'm
You
not the
are
Holy
you.
Spirit. I can't, I don't know when you are ill, you know, and people need to understand, Christians need to understand that men of God are first of all men,
Man.
right? I normally joke uh, with my wife since this corona issue started, and I'm like, we have so many men of God. How come nobody saw corona? Now, my assertion may be wrong. Some persons might have seen corona. God might have revealed it to them. Maybe they didn't understand, or God actually revealed and they understood, but they were not as popular as some others, and it didn't go viral. But the point remains that
Viral.
many men of God we trust, and many men of God whose followers will give their life for, planned programs, drew up calendar, fasted and prayed to receive the calendar, and corona messed everything up, so to say. Right? So what I'm driving home here is that we are men. Don't expect your pastor to know when you are not feeling well. Put a call through. The same way, if there's an urgent need by the church should be willing to make that urgent need open. People will respond when there's an urgent need. And there's the issue of ministry efficiency. If I give to a ministry for the purpose of building a drainage, and it costs us about 5 million to put up that drainage system around the church, and 1 year down the line the church is building another structure and they demolish the drainage system that cost 5 million, I will most likely struggle to give to that ministry the next time. It doesn't show
Yeah.
efficiency. You know, you should be, whatever funds come into your hands, just like we're saying that we should remember that we are stewards, churches should also remember that they are stewards, first to God, but also put themselves in a place where they give account to the people who contribute. Right? Don't take it like it's given, they just have to contribute. Whatever happens to the funds, none of their business. Well, it might reduce the perceived ministry efficiency, right? So the efficiency has to be there. How do you use the fund? I don't want to go into physics now, try to explain what efficiency is in science. But the point is that we should be efficient in the way we use whatever has been given. People will give when they know that we are efficient. So what are the key elements in fundraising? What should we do? If we are raising funds, what should we have? Using your word, now I'll tell you at the back of our mind, but at the front of our minds, as we try to raise funds, is we have to understand that when we are raising funds, fundraising challenges the allegiance to mammon. And one strong grip on the heart of many people is their allegiance to mammon. Mammon here standing for wealth or money, right? The Bible says where our treasure is, there our heart will also be. When a ministry, small or big, personal ministry, global ministry, international ministry, hasn't spent time to raise disciples, they will spend time to raise funds. I remember we were discussing shortly before we went live that growing up in the North, I had opportunity of attending several meetings, MLR, and several other meetings, GOKO, and many places. And as a young boy without any financial way to earn financially, all I do is go there with a prepared heart, my Bible, and my bag filled with clothes. I am fed physically, and I find a place to sleep comfortably. Who contributes that? I don't know. And in some of those programs, you never hear anybody come up to say, we need so, 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 and so. But cows are slaughtered. Bags of rice are, consumed on daily basis. People. And what I see is that the little I have, when I get there, I'm not compelled to give because the ministry has gone to a point where it taught people to first give themselves to the Lord. If you've given yourself to the Lord, then what is your money? Of course, the most popular verse in the Bible, for God so loved the world that he gave. Giving is a natural produce, natural outcome of your love. When you love, you give. It's as simple as that. So when we have to cajole people to give, it might be pointing to the fact that we haven't done our work to ensure people understand their allegiance to God and not to money. Raising money also, another element is raising money and raising godly stewards. It's closely tied to the first one, and what we've been discussing from the very beginning of this series is that stewardship, do the underground work of teaching people that we are stewards. Then raising money is no longer an issue. When they don't have, then they don't have. If they had, they would give. And giving should be spirit-led and not sales-led. Just like we saw in 2 Corinthians, maybe we should read that passage again. 2 Corinthians chapter 8 and verse 5. And not only did they do as we expected, but they gave themselves first to the Lord and then to us because it was the will of God. Now let's look at other translation. And they exceeded our expectations. They gave themselves first of all to the Lord and then by the will of God also to us. Let's see New Living Translation. They even did more than we hoped. for their first action was to give themselves to the Lord and to us, just as God wanted them to give. Let's see Good News Translation. It was more than we could hope for. First, they gave themselves to the Lord, and then by God's will, they gave themselves to us. So it seems like the first thing is that people gave themselves to the Lord. But remember, it says God's will. God's will. We should get to a point. I understand that in our fellowships, in our ministries, we have people who are coming up different strata and different level of spiritual growth. But the aim should be to get to a point where people are led to give. When growing up, I read lots of books from some spiritual men, and you see somebody saying, and God dropped in my heart to go somewhere and ask after so name and give that person something, right? I don't know if it happens like that again these days, but that is what I feel is should be modeled as spirit-led giving and not sales. So this idea where we come up and say the first 5 people to come out and drop 1,000, the Lord will, oh my, I don't want to criticize it. Perhaps there's a revelation I don't understand around that point. But based on my understanding now, I think we are just selling and not teaching people to give. There's a comedian, and I and my wife were just laughing at her joke yesterday, and she said pastors should stop making prayers competitive. And she gave this scenario where there are 2,000 people in the church, and the pastor is saying 3 people here, the Lord is going to lift your burden. And she was like, what happens to the remaining 1,997? And she was like, so we say, okay, the person with the loudest amen will get a miracle. And she was like, okay, God gave me a small voice. The man sitting beside me has a baritone voice. Obviously, his amen is going to be louder than mine. So as God condemned me not to be blessed, so it should not be sales-led. It should be spirit-led.
Yeah.
It should be spirit-led. Elements of fundraising. So I'll leave you to take the other points.
All right. The next thing is that we must always remember that it is a ministry. It is a ministry, which means we must always be given to minister. We must always be given to impact lives. We must always be given at any point in time towards doing work. Okay, something happened yesterday. I was telling someone, I said, it's easy for us to just say, okay, it had to do with rain, and just said, rain will not fall, rain will not. I see, when you go into scriptures, you see that there are certain things that God honors. God honors things when they are being done with respect to ministry. So it's easy for us to say, the God of Elijah, this one, bring that in. He did it in respect to ministry. The same way it must be in every other thing we are doing. God honors things when we do it as a means to minister, as a means to carrying out his work. So we must always remember that raising funds, when we are raising funds, we should raise it with the mindset that we are doing a ministry. Paul said that this ministry, when he was writing to the Corinthians, we can read chapter 8, I can't remember the exact verse, and I said, but this thing is ministering. This ministry is ministering to many of the Lord's people. This is ministering to many of the Lord's people. So he was raising funds because it was a ministry. It was a way to help many. In fact, if you go and read the resolutions of the Jerusalem Council when they were having issue in the book of Acts, one of the things they were told to do was to remember what? To remember the Lord's poor, the people who were poor among the Lord's people. To remember to give to the work of the Lord. And Paul said that this was something I was very much eager to do. So, it's not only the message of teaching or preaching. This is also a ministry. Then fundraising must begin with me, just like what we've discussed before. Leading by example. We should not be waiting for the pastor to be the one that would. So we've not turned our pastors to decorated beggars, where it's also always as if they're the ones coming out, come and give to this, come and give to this. No. we should learn to lead fundraising efforts. We should learn to ourselves be the first to give. Don't be waiting for when they mention fundraising. The first thing is your mind goes to bro Kule, bro Musa, oh it's bro Israel. Mm-mm. It must begin with you. Let it begin with you. Or begin with me. So once fundraising is mentioned, the first thing is what can I give to
Mm.
this?
Thank you so much.
All right.
What can I give? What can I give? All right. So how can we facilitate the right environment and mindset for giving? You know, one of them is that raising money should be for life transformation. Of course, we mentioned it has to be for a cause, right? If you are raising money and you cannot clearly define the cause, there is the possibility that you might not raise as much funds as you want to within your ministry. And we need to clear this up because people just feel it's a ministry. I just tell people we need to buy a car and that is all. Why do we need a bus? Tell the people, why do you need a church bus? What do you want to do with the church bus? What is the mission? What is the vision around raising money for a church bus, right? And there is no substitute for absolute integrity. I think we've mentioned that. The people saddled with the responsibility of handling funds should be, spotless. Their integrity should be without doubt. People will shy away from giving if they know or if they have an hint that some of the funds will be embezzled. Of course, we've explained people give to causes and not programs. So it's not like every fourth Sunday is pastor appreciation Sunday, so everybody should come and give. You have to take out time at least once in 2 months, in 3 months, to let people know why Pastor Appreciation Sunday should hold. What is the reason? Why are you doing that? Is there a reason why we should give to a pastor? I don't know, I've not done this study, but I could almost be positive that every ministry that has a fundraising project, like church raising project, what happens is that over time, the contribution dwindles. It dwindles if you don't come back to explain the cause why giving should be done. You don't just say, okay, we have a program. The program is every Wednesday we do church project. You have to come and bring to the remembrance of the people the reason why do we need to increase the auditorium to 10,000 people, because we want to reach out to more people. Because the larger the auditorium, the more the people we might attract, and the more the lives we might touch. Yes, people want to give to a cause, right?
Yeah.
People want to give, okay, we are going to the motherless children home and we want to reach out to them. That is the cause. We are reaching out to the displaced people in the Kanuri land. That is a cause, right? And repeat donor must be inspired. If there's somebody, in fact, this issue of when the right give, the right hand give, the left hand should not know, it is becoming difficult now. Why? Because as the accountants or the people in the maybe offering department, and you have to go to the church, statement of account, it could be very easy for you to know who is giving what.
Yeah.
Right from the statement of account. And by the time it gets to that level, I know some years back it was difficult. You just put in an unmarked envelope and just drop it. Sometimes we even abuse our currency by squeezing it in the name of, I don't want my neighbor to know what I'm giving, and give fine. Well, technology and knowledge has increased, and now we have the church account number scrolling and streaming around, and people give. When if there's a way to spot out people who give repeatedly, we should inspire them. We should encourage them. We should let them know that, look, your giving is noticed here first on earth. We know God knows. Yes, we too spotted it, and we are saying thank you. I know some ministries go as far as saying, look, if you give so, we'll give you a book and blah, blah. I don't want to say that is sales, but whatever, they're acknowledging somebody. We should also do it. What it does is that it facilitates the right environment and mindset for people to give. Every other thing from here will almost be a repetition. If there are other gray areas, we just spot them out, bro. Victor, the next slide is for you.
Okay. The next thing is that there must be a vision. There must be a vision. One thing I saw very clearly from the ministries of both Jesus and Paul is that they were very, very clear about their vision. Jesus did not mince words about what he came to do, and he always let his disciples know that, okay, this is what I stand for. Same thing with Paul. Paul always lets the people he was ministering to know that this is what I represent, this is what I'm standing for at every point in time. What it does is it helps people to buy into the vision of the ministry. And remember what we said before, that people give to causes. They don't just give to programs. So people need to understand, people need to see your vision. People need to see very clearly where you are going to. So that when you now invite them to be part of the journey towards that vision, they are able to buy into it. They are able to give to it. The next thing is that people appreciate useful information. Just like you mentioned before, there's no point trying to hide things away. It's part of transparency. Give people the information they need. This is what we want to do. This is how we intend to go about it. This is what it's going to cost. In fact, if there's something I even like to do, I'll present multiple options to you, because it in a way it shows the fact that you've also done your own homework. I will give you that, okay, if we go this route, it's going to cost us this much. If we go this route, it's going to cost us this much. This is the best option we have. But maybe based on what we are looking at now, we cannot afford it, because you never can tell. There might be someone that God will just impress it on their heart to, no, don't go for this lower one because of funds. Why? I will take care of this. So give people the necessary information they need to have to make the appropriate decisions. Then use the pastor appropriately. Let's let the pastor, don't turn your pastor to a glorified beggar, like I mentioned before. let the pastor be able to just give out that coin for people to give. No need to be cajoling people. No need to be turning it into a sales speech and do this one like this. I don't want to go into some things, but there are sometimes, you go for programs and you would have just been, the spirit will be flowing up to it, something will just start like this and it will just cut off the whole thing, So we should be very mindful of that. Then stewardship should be a lifestyle, not an event. And this goes back to what we've been saying all the while, teaching people that they are stewards. If people have come to understand the fact that they are stewards, then giving will not be difficult. When there is need to give, it's not something that becomes very hard. It's just like when you exercise. If you don't exercise a lot and you have to exercise once in a while, I'm telling you, when you finish that once in a while exercise, your body will give you the report card. So that's the same way that it comes to the issue of giving. If it's not something you do regularly, it will be difficult. It will be difficult for it to happen when a very, very big need, quote and unquote, now arises for giving.
Thank you, my brother. We'll try and wrap up now. Still under facilitating the right mindset and environment for giving. People give to winners. Tell us your story. People love to, sometimes we feel like, people keep giving to that big ministry. People keep giving. People give to winners. They are seeing results.
They are seeing results.
So what are your results? Right? The last time you went for village evangelism, what happened? The last time you went for rural rugged, what happened? Give information. Let people know what is happening. People give to ministries that are generating results. I understand that there are some ministries that, like, if you are a groundbreaking missionary and you need to go there, you might be there for years without anything happening. But give reports, and
Yeah,
God
let
will raise
people
people
aware.
who understand how mission works, how the work of a missionary works, right? God will raise people
Yeah.
for you. Fundraising is a means to an end and not the end, right? We should note that it's a means to an end, and we've said that all through our presentation today. You must have a goal, you must have something. Donors do not give, they invest. Many donors, they give because God has told them to give. So they are investing their relationship with God. Some are investing in the belief that, okay, if I give, something will happen back to me, right? Or donors are investing. See it that way, that donors are usually invest. They don't just give just because they want to give. They are investing. So you have to ensure that whatever they are investing in, like the time we like using, we say they are sowing. You have to be a fertile ground. And the last time they sowed, what was the result? Not to them per se, but what did you do with the fund? What came out of it? Dream, pray, ask, and minister big, right? We have to create that environment for our people. We dream, we pray, we ask, and we minister. When it's time for us to minister with what has been given, let's minister in a big way. We can't come and raise funds in a big way, and when we go to minister, we minister in a small way.
In a small way.
Then we will not expect people to give later on. We have to understand that we have no right to claim that because God has designed that the Israelites should give to the temple and to the Levites. Therefore, the sons of Samuel can misuse
Do anyhow.
whatever has been given and still demand that people be obedient. That may happen in the Old Testament, not now, right? So when we minister big, and we trust God. So facilitating right mindset, like I said, let's just wrap this up. Listen carefully, respond strategically, and thank people sincerely. People should know that you are thanking them from your heart, that you are sincere with thanksgiving. I remember the very first time I went to a different church from mine growing up. The very first time I went to a different church from mine growing up. When I got to this church, there was a need for money. I can't remember clearly now. This is well over 25 years ago. I can't remember what for, but the first thing was that they asked people to give a certain sum. Hypothetically, for now, let me just say they asked people to give 1,000 naira. And we gave normal offering in a silver aluminum tray, right? Then it got to a point people were supposed to give a high amount, let's say 5,000, and they brought brown envelopes for those people. And it got to a point people needed to give 10,000, and they brought white envelope for those people. And it got to a point people were told to give 20,000, right? And they brought something that looked like a golden envelope. And the usher that came in strolled in with trumpets and instruments were blaring for people to give. I felt cheated because what I gave that day was my transport money back home. And I was going to trek kilometers back home. And all the fanfare and praise were to people who gave the highest sum, whereas I gave my all. You know, so we should thank people sincerely, irrespective of what they have given. When somebody gives, the person has given his time. I read somebody's post on the WhatsApp status, and the person said, if I give you 50,000 what I want you to know is that if you hawk pure water or gala on the streets of Nigeria, how many days it will take you to earn 50,000 naira? If you are a banker and you are paid 500,000 per month, 50,000 is how many days worth of work? And you know there are very many bankers that don't earn 500. So if somebody gives you 50,000, that person has given you a lot of hours
of his life.
of his life. So whatever the amount, church people involved in ministry must thank people sincerely. Fine, they gave to God, not you. But you are the one here receiving it.
Receiving it.
Thank people sincerely. Let love, compassion, and servanthood be the motivation and not money goals. Not that, okay, I'm driving this type of car or something. Let it be love and servanthood, not money goals be our motivation. What we do, what that does is that it creates the right environment and mindset for people to give. When people notice that you show favoritism because of the amount that certain persons give, there's a tendency they will not respond positively again when you request that they give. Bro Victor, round it up for us.
Okay. So, you see, God has placed financial resources in every nation. every nation. He said that he shows no partiality. He said that he causes rain to fall on both the good and even the evil. Not to talk of when we are not talking about the good. So he has placed financial resources in every nation. We have a responsibility as stewards. We have a responsibility as stewards. It says demanded of stewards that they be found faithful. So let's go ahead, go and develop these resources, go and deploy these resources to fulfill the Great Commission. He said, go into the world and make disciples. Make disciples. And like I mentioned earlier, he said, the Bible says in Psalms, true prosperity will, the gospel will, the good news be noised abroad. So let's go out to the world, get the resources that God has placed in different people, in different nations. Let's develop them as we've discussed in previous lessons, and let's deploy them effectively towards making disciples, towards growing men and building men who will also be good ministers for the kingdom. Praise God.
Thank you so much, Bro Victor, for coming online. And for those of us who will be listening to this whenever, 20 years time, 1 year time, whatever it is, we have to understand that we need to live bigger than ourselves. If our life is all around myself, my family, then it's so myopic, right? The resources God has given us is to make impact. What would we be remembered for after we've gone? What would we be rewarded for when we also get to heaven? Thank you for coming. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and God bless you.